sinners, and saints. Dust off those horns and halos. It's time for Alan After Dark.
Happy Pride Month, sinners and saints all around the world. I hope you're feeling well. I hope you're feeling sexy. I hope you're doing what you want to do this fine feathered day or night. I hope you're indulging all of your wildest fantasies. Or having a cocktail, or eating some of your favorite food. As we're kicking off Pride Month, I really wanted to talk about, well, what pride means to me, not just in the context of the gay community, but the importance of exposure to others and the necessity of educating people. Now, when I say educating, I mean I want to address a lot of the ignorance that's out there about homosexuality and the gay community. We all know that the religious right wing, basically around the world, some of them purposely spread propaganda, lies about the gay community, about homosexuality, to further their own agenda. But I do believe that there is genuine ignorance about what it means to be gay and the struggles that we face almost on a daily basis, especially now that the tide seems to be turning against us once again. As a gay man who is single, I really want to address the first piece of propaganda the right wing really does scatter to the wind. They want to view homosexuality as a purely sexual behavior, what we do in the sheets or in a men's room or the back seat of a car or in the restroom at church. I mean, Jesus. But that plays into that propaganda role. If you can control the narrative of homosexuality, you can then demonize it. So by characterizing homosexuality as purely a sexual behavior, they have an advantage against us because they're always against sex, even though everybody has it. So, like I've said before, as a single gay man in the Bible Belt, if I never have sex again with another man, I'm still gay. My gayness is not defined solely by my sexual behavior, what I do in the sheets. They don't understand, and they don't want to understand, that at the core of my being, I'm gay. It is a different way to feel, a different way to look at the world. All of my connections that are of an intimate level, and when I say intimate, I mean on the level of a relationship, like marriage. A gay couple has the same struggles and challenges that any heterosexual couple has. If we were having sex 24/7, how in the hell could we be paying for a mortgage, doing laundry, putting food on the table? But there are people that want others to believe that that's all this is about. And we have to show more and more that we have a regular life like everybody else does. The problem I have with that, though, is that we're letting them, once again, the right-wing religious bigots, dictate what your life should be. I mean, Jesus Christ, if I really wanted to have sex 24/7, what business is it of theirs? It's not. They have always used sex in heterosexual terms as a way to denigrate people, calling them sinners. So being gay and having gay sex, that's even one step worse, right? I guess I wonder why so many people still are being manipulated by these so-called religious leaders in ways that are not logical. If they really did think about how it all works, you would know that nobody chooses their sexual orientation. But if the propaganda furthers their agenda, they don't care that they're spreading lies. So when you see a pride parade, you see that it includes all genders, all orientations, all cultures, all races, all countries. We celebrate love and the freedom to love and to be proud of yourself. It's so funny because I've noticed in social media platforms lately that they keep talking about pride being a sin. But are they really looking at pride the way their religious text refers to it versus what pride actually means when it comes to gay pride? Pretty sure they're not, because if they were really worried about the sin of pride, they wouldn't be supporting the orange turd and his constant boasting and bragging about himself being this great businessman, this great everything, which is nothing but a big old pile of horse shit. To me, the worshiping of a liar, a wannabe dictator, is by far a greater sin than expressing pride in the life you live. So when you see me at the Gay Pride Parade and I'm on a float and I'm waving at all of you and we're cheering and celebrating, I'm celebrating my life that I live, the love that I feel for people that are in my life. I'm proud of us as a community in the efforts that we've taken to get where we are today. And honestly, I'm talking about just being treated as equals, not better than, not less than, but equals. And this right-wing anti-gay agenda, it really isn't about making heterosexuality the dominant orientation, because it is and it will always be the dominant orientation. The religious right-wing agenda is about using fear to keep people under control. And this fear campaign that they're undertaking, it works two different ways. They're also hoping that they can convince, well, I shouldn't say hoping. One of the consequences to this propaganda is violence against the gay community. And as we've seen lately, especially with the transgender community, if they can instill fear into this community again, put us back in the closets and hiding, they win too. That is part of the agenda. The use of fear can control lots of people. And I have to admit, there are times that it's controlled me. Sometimes you have to tiptoe through a field of landmines to make sure that you are alive when you get to the other side. Us being dead isn't a benefit to the community. So always remember that we do need to point out to people when they've been told something that is incorrect about the community and try to explain to them why it is wrong. But isn't it funny? If it's a friend of yours, they should know based on your own life, by your own example. But I guess a lot of people don't even think about that, do they? They just have decided that we go home from work and start swinging naked from door frames, ready to get plowed and sucked left and right until we can't walk anymore, or something like that. Jesus. This campaign of fear became a cancer in our own justice system. The judicial system was not being fair to LGBTQIA victims of crime. It took hate crimes legislation to at least try to at least give some protection to a community that is constantly under attack, one way or the other. And what I mean by that is, for example, there was someone that I knew years ago who was murdered. His killer used a defense of rough sex and extreme foreplay, even though my friend's larynx had been crushed from the strangulation. With a homophobic, anti-gay judge, he allowed it and literally gave the man probation. Hate crimes legislation prevents that. Even if you have a homophobic, anti-gay judge, they have to follow the guidelines of punishment, of justice for someone who is a victim that might be a gay man, a lesbian woman, a bisexual person, a trans person. Hate crimes legislation forced those homophobic, anti-gay judges to treat us as equal, whether they liked it or not. It doesn't mean that they still don't hate us. They probably hate us even more, but at least we do have allies that do offer us some protection in the court system most times. I still think that judges who could be anti-gay would find ways to put the victim on trial versus the actual defendant who should have to answer for their crimes. And if the defendant is gay, a homophobic judge could show more animosity and sentence the defendant that's found guilty to a much harsher penalty. Well, the hate crimes legislation would, in that sense, kind of protect them too. Now, I know that hate crimes legislation wouldn't bring my friend back, but at least if they were in place when he was killed, there might be this sense of justice that the one who hurt him, killed him, would face more than just probation. But all those things, it is this agenda of the right wing to terrorize the gay community. And when you realize that they won't stop with the gay community, that they will and have and are targeting women and other minorities, other races, other countries, other religions, the fear of what a certain type of federal government in charge and what they could unleash on all of us should be terrifying everyone. And if you haven't watched the television series Handmaid's Tale or read the book, you might want to think about doing that, because I believe that that would be the path that we're on if the orange turd was somehow able to get back into office. I don't know about you guys, but I don't want to live in a dictatorship. And I'm pretty sure I've said before, but you better have a valid passport. And if you don't, you better start working on getting one, because we don't know what's going to happen in this election. And we don't know if they're going to commit acts of violence on election day. That's the thing about fear and intimidation. They do work sometimes. The thing that works best against that is to not be intimidated, to get out there and vote, to fight to protect your rights, our rights as Americans. Witnessing what we see around the world with all these countries like Russia and Hungary and several countries in Africa passing some of the most archaic dystopian laws that target the gay community. And we all know that's just the start. Is that the world you want to live in? Is that the country you want to live in? I certainly don't. But that's what these people do. They target groups that they think are hated by a majority of the population. And you start with that. And then as you keep going along, you'll start restricting more and more civil rights to all the population. And at that point, it's too late to really do something. I've never heard or known throughout history of a repressive government ever stopping with just one group to terrorize. And so people should not be so ignorant to believe that they would be safe from an authoritarian government. I don't know, you think that just because you're white, male, maybe rich, that they would never come after you? Eventually they will. That's why you should be suspicious of any political party that attempts to demonize a group through fear tactics and propaganda. You know, like they equate every Palestinian with Hamas. Well, we know that that's not true, but they succeed in that because of the fear factor, because of what Hamas did. And Hamas is a terrorist group. It does not mean that every Palestinian is a member of Hamas and is seeking out violence and terrorism and war every minute of every day. But if you can convince a large number of people within the population that that's true, you have already solidified a foundation that in that scenario targets the Palestinians. But I'm telling you that their targeting of the gay community and the transgender community right now is along the same lines of fear-mongering. When they have accomplished all they want to destroy the trans community, who will they go after next? Would it be you? Would it be me? Us? I really don't want us to have to face that question. You You know what cracks me up the most when you're at Pride and you see the protesters? They always try to invoke the abominations that are in the Christian Bible in the book of Leviticus. I laugh at them because it's like, if you really are so convinced that the abominations are a list of things you can't do from God, why aren't you out there outside the Captain D's seafood restaurant protesting people who are eating seafood that don't have fins or scales? Why aren't you outside clothing stores protesting that they're selling clothes that are made from two different types of fabric? Why aren't you outside tattoo parlors condemning people for getting marks in the skin? I mean, it's just so blatantly hypocritical when you see them, that how they cherry pick. I mean, if you listen to the fearmongers, you'd swear that the only abomination in the Bible was against gay sex. But there are so many. You're not even supposed to shave your beard or trim your hair at the temples. Well, what happens to somebody like me who shaves their head? And you're not supposed to eat pork either, so why aren't they outside the Cracker Barrel protesting everybody who's eating sausage and bacon? Jesus Christ. If they really did have that conviction, they'd have to be on their knees at church all the time, just trying to stay on the quote-unquote right side of the abominations that are listed in Leviticus. Do they not see their hypocrisy? We all know what it is. They pick and choose whatever they want to believe or to use to beat somebody over the head with. Nothing applies to them. It applies to everybody else. So I always believed that their argument is that the Bible and all the weird laws and rules and the stuff that contradicts the other stuff, that it was set in stone, not subjective. But when you challenge them on it, you'll see how quickly they believe that it is subjective and that none of it applies to them, only to other people. And they really think they're going to get away with that. If there truly is a God and there's a judgment day, I know that there's a scripture in the Bible that says people will stand before God and say, look at all the great things that I've done in your name. And God is supposed to say, depart from me, you worker of iniquity. I never knew you. I can picture one person trying to do that if it was really real. I can see Donald Trump, the orange turd, saying, look at all the things I've done that helped myself. There's just, it really helped them, but I was helping myself. And that's why I should be let in. And God would just say, you're going straight to hell. I'll probably get death threats by saying that, won't I? His boastfulness, his level of pride is pride in himself, which is what is taught as a sin in the Bible, not pride in your whole community. I wish that people would stop using the Bible, cherry-picking verses to make it a weapon. On the positive side, did you hear this story about Eric Posey winning his defamation case against Summer Bushnell? Summer Bushnell is one of these fucking right-wing Karen Trump bot maggots who is totally anti-gay and will do anything to discredit the gay community. Well, Eric is a drag performer in Idaho, and he was at a Pride event in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho in 2022. And this Summer Bushnell was there and recorded one of Eric's performances, but doctored the video to make it look like, I guess she pixelated the crotch area and implied that Eric was performing with his dick out. The jury come to a unanimous verdict and awarded him $1.176 million in damages. He won $926,000 in compensatory damages and an additional $250,000 for punitive damage. Hopefully, this will drag the bitch into bankruptcy and she won't be able to do this again. Here's the thing. This bitch was still sharing this doctored video of Eric on her Facebook account, even during the case, even when it was in court. And what she would do is she would show this video that she had doctored and put text with it that said, "Can this guy be arrested for exposing his genitals to minors?" Obviously, Eric wasn't doing that. Eric, whose stage name is Mona Lisa Million, was wearing a leotard, black shorts, underwear, and tights, and also a metallic silver boa wrapped around the waist. This bitch thought that she could get away with doing this to someone, just lying about a drag performer, for their ultimate goal is just to punish this performer, to strike at the gay community and drag performers for something they didn't do. I mean, is there not anything more equivalent to fascism than that? I mean, sweet Jesus, but she's going to pay now. This ruling will wipe her out. And you know what? Good. Fuck Summer Bushnell. May she be infested with crabs, every kind of lice in her bush, her armpits, in her eyebrows, in her nose hairs. I think she deserves it. I guess one might say that Summer's bush won't be so bushy. I bet it smells like tuna. Thank you for joining me for this Pride episode of Alan After Dark. I hope you've had fun and been entertained and provoked somehow. Remember, take life by the balls and be real. We'll see you soon. Thank you.